It's Esther Braithwaite from Esther Joy Knits. Welcome to our final module of our tutorial showing you how I knit my charity dolls. Today we're going to be learning how to put the finishing touches on your doll. I'll show you how to embroider the eyes and how to make and attach the hair. Let's start by embroidering our face. We've kept a long tail of black yarn when we finish seaming up the doll's legs. What you're going to do is take this yarn, bring it up from the seam at the back, all the way through to where we're going to embroider our first eye. And you can see I got to squash this doll a little bit to get my needle up there. That's okay. With a little plumping, she'll be good as new. I like to bring my yarn up on one side of my stitch, 3 rows down from the top of my hair. And now I'm going to make 3 small horizontal stitches right over both legs of that stitch. On the 3rd stitch, I'm going to go down and bring my yarn up on the opposite side for the other eye. And again, I'm just making 1, 2, 3 stitches. Here, I'm going to bring my yarn up on the top of the head where we've closed the top of her head. We want to keep this fairly loose, otherwise you're going to kind of have her eye pucker. And if that happens, you can just pick that out with your needle. I'm going to pick up a stitch on the top of the head and just use that to make a knot to secure my embroidery. And then just as we've done before, I feed that yarn down through the doll. Keep some tension on it and snip the end. Okay, you can use a needle to kind of even out your eye. And then I always like to give my dolls a bit of a blush on their cheeks. And I'm just going to use a cotton swab and some powder blush. Just pick up a little bit of blush on the end of your Q-tip or your cotton swab. And I like to make a circle, kitty corner to my eye, and about 4 stitches in width. If the blush is a little bright for your taste, you can use the clean end to kind of take a little bit off. But that gives your doll a little bit of a glow. Now we're ready for the final step, which is adding hair to the doll. To make the curls that I use for my doll's hair, you'll need a skewer. I use old bamboo DPNs, and you'll need yarn the same color that you've used to knit your doll's hair. Make a knot and attach that to one end of your skewer or your bamboo needle. You want to use, I've never used metal needles for this. I've always used the bamboo. And then what you're going to do is just wrap that needle quite tightly And when you're done, you can snip that yarn and make another knot to hold it in place. I often wait until I have a few dolls on the go and do my hair all at once, because the next step, and I'm not going to show you this, but the next step is to put the yarn into a colander and soak it completely with hot water, and then put the skewers onto a pizza pan or a cookie sheet, and you're going to bake it in a low temperature oven, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, for about half an hour. And when you've done that and you pull the yarn off the end of your skewer, once it's finished drying and it's cool, you'll end up with a strand of yarn that's got these wonderful springy curls to it. And I've made dolls that are several years old now, and this curl doesn't fall out. It's going to hold the curl once you've done this. And I've done this with acrylic yarn. I've done it with wool yarn. The next step is to cut the strands to the right length for your doll's hairstyle. So snip the knots off the ends of your yarn. And I like to find the center of my yarn, cut it in half, and cut it in half again. If I was going to be making this sort of messy bun top knot, I would cut my yarn in half twice more. I'm going to show you how I make ponytails today, piggy tails. And for those, we're going to cut our yarn now into thirds. So I kind of fold my yarn around my fingers and just kind of play with it until I get it into about thirds. And that's going to give me 6 strands of hair for each side of my doll. We're going to attach the strands using a crochet hook. This is a size B, 2.25 millimeters. You want a fairly small one because it's going to, a larger one sometimes will leave marks or put gaps in the stitches, and we don't want that to happen. When I'm making pigtails, I like to come up right even with my doll's shoulder, right even with her arm. And what I do is I take my crochet hook and I'm going to go right up into the second row of hair, and I'm going to put my crochet hook under both legs of a stitch. So you see my V here, my crochet hook goes through both legs of a stitch. Then I take 2 strands of my curls. You kind of have to separate them out here. Fold them in half, and then hook the middle of those strands with your crochet hook. You're going to pull it through. Then you're going to wrap all 4 strands around the crochet hook and pull those through the loop. And that is going to knot those curls right onto your doll's head. I'm going to do another 2 strands right beside those ones. So through both legs of the stitch, pick up the middle, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and tighten up. And then I usually do the last 2 strands 1 row above. So through 2 stitches, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And you can kind of play with it to get the shape you want. You can trim it up if the hair is a little long. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Your doll's pigtails. If you wanted to do the top knot like this girl, you would do the same technique in a circle just around the top of the seam here where we closed up the top of the head.